On this worksheet, we want to see where the max is before a downturn. Let's highlight all of the data here and create a new rule. I go up Conditional Formatting, New Rule, and we'll say C8 has to be less than C7. And for the format, let's apply a yellow. What happened? It turns out that the rule has to be written for the cell that was highlighted. When I started drawing from the lower left up to the right, the cell that was highlighted was H18. And so everything is offset by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows and so many columns. It turns out we have to write the rule for the cell that is highlighted. In this case, H18 was highlighted, and so everything has been offset right and down. Let's go back, get rid of this rule, and instead highlight from the left down. Now the rule we write will apply to C7. Conditional Formatting, New Rule, and here we say C8 is less than C7. And let's format it with yellow. Much better. We can see that it goes 100, 101, 102, 103, and then 100. It goes up to 7 and down, 9 and down, and so forth throughout this. Perhaps we'd rather highlight when it went down rather than the high before the low. To do that, we have to take a different approach. So let's back out of this one. And instead of highlighting the whole data, we'll start with C8, leaving out the first row. Now we'll write the exact same rule. C8 less than C7, and put the formatting in. And now you can see it goes up, and then when it goes down, it highlights it, and so forth throughout the table. But you may say that we have forgotten January. To do that, we need to compare December and January here. So I'm going to write a new rule. Notice I left out C7, January 97, because I have nothing to compare it to. Let's write another rule. And in this rule, I want to write it for D7. So I'll say equals D7, is it less than C18? And if so, I'm going to give it the same formatting. Much better. It looks like every January is less than December, and other low months are May and November. In addition, we have 3 other months that are at a low. Let's move to the Positive Change tab. Here we want to highlight every student that did better on the post-JEDI than on the pre-JEDI test. But we also want to include the names. So I'll highlight all of them, including the names. Additional, New Rule. Now I write the condition for B9, as that is the cell that is highlighted. Equals, and we want to say the post-JEDI, but we want to be able to copy this down the rows, let it run. So I'm going to hit the F4 key until I have absolute column, but relative row. We always want to look at column D and see if that's greater than column C. So I'll do the likewise. Now that I have the formula, let's use a bright green for the cell. You notice it highlights everything on the row because our formula said everything in absolute column D minus absolute column C. Next, let's try hiding errors. This time, instead of highlighting the errors, we want to hide them. How? Well, we could delete the equations. However, when we add the other values, we want to use these equations to finish calculating out this worksheet. Maybe we could go in and change each equation to say it is an error, then put blank. Otherwise, use the equation. That would certainly work, but let's try something else here with conditional formatting. What can I do? Well, I can change the color of the font so it exactly matches the background color, thus hiding what is printed in those cells. Let's highlight all of these cells, and into conditional formatting, new rule. This applies to B5 because that's what's lighter. I will say is error B5. Is B5 an error? That returns either a true or false result. Let's now format the color of the text. So I'm going up here to Font, Color. The background is using this blue color that we can see here. And so I'll say OK. And notice that you can't see any of the errors right now. However, when the values are input, the equations will still work and the results will show up on our sheet.